How are you doing? Welcome to Facts and Two Cents. This is Petal. Hope you are all doing well. Today we are looking at some world news, as some breaking news has been happening today. I actually had a whole thing planned, and then this broke, and I thought, well, let's start with this. Big news from the ICJ, which is the International Criminal Court. As we know, a few months ago, South Africa filed really a grievance and filed charges against Israel, accusing Israel of genocide. Many other nations joined together in accusing Israel of genocide, as we've all seen. And so as late as last week or a week and a half ago, South Africa filed another motion, an emergency motion, as Israel moved into Rafah, and South Africa filed this motion with the court to stop Israel from attacking Rafah, from bombing Rafah, which they have been doing. They started doing it since the day of the Met Gala, which I think it was May 6th. They have been in Gaza doing this. And so South Africa and other nations filed this appeal from the International Court of Justice at The Hague. And so today, the court has rendered its ruling, and this is the ruling. The top UN court orders Israel to halt military offense in Rafah, though Israel is unlikely to comply, as they've not complied with anything else. It says in the Hague, Netherlands, the top United Nations court ordered Israel on Friday to immediately halt its offensive in the southern Gaza city of Rafah, but stopped short of ordering a ceasefire for the enclave. Although Israel is unlikely to comply with the order, it will ratchet up pressure on the increasingly isolated country. Criticisms of Israel's conduct in the war in Gaza has been growing, particularly since it turned its focus to Rafah. This week alone, 3 European countries announced they would recognize a Palestinian state, and the chief prosecutor for another international court requested arrest warrants for Israel leader along with Hamas officials, which we'll talk about in a minute. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is also under pressure at home to end the war, which was triggered when Hamas-led militants stormed into Israel, killing 1,200 people, most civilians, and taking 250 hostages. Thousands of Israelis have joined weekly demonstrations calling on the government to reach a deal and bring the hostages home, fearing time is running out. I'm going to correct this numbers a little bit, because even Israeli media has corrected this number and revised this number for Israelis killed to around 600 and something. A lot of the others have been Hamas people that they said were killed. And on top of that, a lot of these people, even Israeli-owned media, have stated that a lot of these people were killed by the IDF, who were indiscriminately firing on people. Even former hostages said they were fired on by the IDF. So I don't know why Western media still keep with these numbers and are not reporting the facts, because even Israeli media have revised these numbers and changed what they thought was happening. So Western media, for some reason, have not changed it. But again, the ICJ today has ordered Israel to stop military offensive in Rafah. Will they comply? We know what Israel is, unless the United States and its other allies put their foot down and demand it of Israel, they will not change it. So it will be interesting to see what will happen, and we'll get to the ICC ruling that was a few days ago in a second. So this is very interesting because, as we'll see a little bit later on, America, the United States, has not responded kindly when accusations are brought against Israel. And so this is very interesting. Al Arabia News, I had not heard of them before, but they have a very interesting thing. And I thought, it was like, how would the United States respond to this? It says, the U.S. judge at the International Court of Justice, who President Joe Biden previously nominated to be a legal advisor to the State Department, voted in favor of Friday's order for Israel to halt its offensive in Gaza's Rafah. Sarah Cleveland was nominated in 2021, but she is never confirmed when she was elected as the judge last November. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken praised the court as a guardian of international law. And when announcing her candidacy, Biden said that the ICJ was one of humanity's most critical institutions to advance peace around the world. That was their sentiment when they put her on the bench and they nominated her to serve at the International Criminal Court of Justice. Will they abide by what the ICJ has said, knowing she voted for Israel to halt its offensive? Again, the United States government has not been welcoming of any kind of criticism, any kind of condemnation against Israel. So we will see, since she has voted for them to halt this offensive. How did some senators, we haven't heard from the president as yet. We haven't heard him respond to this latest loss or this latest demand for Israel to stop. We have not heard from the White House about it yet. So we are, who knows what they're going to be saying. If it's anything like the others, it's not going to be good. But we have heard from Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham, if you don't know, is a senator from South Carolina, one of those that Israel, AIPAC, Israel's lobby, has bought and paid for. And this is what he has said: as far as I'm concerned, the ICJ can go to hell. And it is long past time to stand up to these so-called international justice organizations associated with the UN. Their anti-Israel bias is overwhelming. The ICJ ruling that Israel should stop operations that are necessary to destroy 4 battalions of Hamas killers and terrorists who use Palestinians as human shields is ridiculous. This will and should be ignored by Israel. That is a elected government official saying this about the International Criminal Court of Justice. That's to tell you where the United States is right now and their mindset right now. This is what being bought and paid for by Israel looks like. And sure enough, what has Israel done? I'm just going to move my little logo here so we can read that. And what has Israel done since the ICJ's ruling today? About 3-4 hours ago? Israel's response to the ICJ ordering an end to genocide. Israel is carpet bombing al-Shabora refugee camp in Rafah. Carpet bombing is when they drop 5 or more bombs on the same location in a minute. That's right. In response to being told, stop, Israel, as ever, because they know they have American backing, America would hide their crimes and cover up their crimes and make excuses for them. They ignore international law because why? It doesn't apply to them, apparently. So what do? They carpet bomb Rafah. They're also bombing hospitals there. They've already bombed all the schools, and they're also bombing refugee camp, UN refugee camp. I mean, everything. In response to being told to stop. That is where we are today. We have yet to hear from the President of the United States. At least the last time I checked X, I hadn't seen anything from the President or his administration, like Secretary Blinken in this latest demand from an international court to stop. How are they going to respond to it? It'll be interesting to see. Again, they nominated a judge who voted for Israel to stop. Will they defy her too? We will see. Yesterday, this happened, which is wonderful. History is being made. This is Hassan Zamlot, who is the Palestinian ambassador to UK. He says, history is being made. Thank you, Ireland, Norway, and Spain for recognizing our inalienable right to self-determination and our distinct national identity. This will move us closer to justice and a sustainable peace. We urge the few remaining countries in the world, especially the UK, with its historic responsibility to follow suit and provide a long overdue path from occupation, colonization, oppression, and apartheid to equality under law and accountability. So This is great. There's more and more nations. We've looked at quite a few nations, including my own, that are recognizing now the state of Palestine. And that is great. This is a great symbolic move. But now these nations need to do more. They need to cut ties. They need to sanction, cut ties, whatever they need to do to isolate Israel, because they're not going to stop. As we just saw, the ICJ told them today, stop. Or what did they do? They carpet bomb Rafah. And they're carpet bombing people living in tents. They are bombing people living in tents. This is where they're at. They're not going to stop. They're not going to stop until they are forced to stop. And countries around the world need to force them to stop. Be it sanctions, cutting off all trade talks, whatever it is, bombs that you're sending, ammunition to them, everything needs to stop. I know Ireland, they in their statement was saying we don't want to, cut ties with Israel, but we must recognize. No, it's time for you to cut ties. If you don't understand what Zionism is by now, you're never going to understand it. These people will not stop until you are forced to stop. And countries around the world must force them to stop. This is the only thing that will stop them. And isolate them. Completely isolate them by cutting off all agreements, whatever it needs to be, with Israel. So they need to go further. This is a great step of recognizing Palestine, but they need to go further. But thank you, Ireland, Norway, and Spain, and all the others. And honestly, talk about Spain, Eloni Barrera, there people are commending the prime minister or the president of Spain. But Eloni Barrera, who is the minister, she was until she was let go, has been the one really, and others, but chiefly been the one championing this. Really, and she's the one that's pushing them to do more than just recognizing Palestinian state. She is the one, when we talked about Chef Andreas, before that whole thing with Israel bombing World's Central Kitchen's people and killing their team members in Gaza. She was the one that he wanted to be fired because she was advocating for Palestine and calling out Israel for its crimes. She was the one that he was saying, oh, you should be fired, they should fire you. And obviously we talked about this before. A couple months later, she was indeed let go from her position, but she has not stopped. She has not stopped advocating. She is on the forefront advocating for this. So for me, kudos to her, because she's the one that's been out there nonstop speaking out about what is happening, what Israel is doing to Palestine. So again, kudos to all of these people for their recognition, but more needs to be done. And we talked about this and talk about the ICJ, which is the International Court of Justice. This is the ICC, the International Criminal Court. And we talked about this with Karim Khan, who is the chief prosecutor at the International Criminal Court, that there was the talk for like weeks about that the International Criminal Court was going to be charging Benjamin Netanyahu and his fellow genocidal psychos in his parliament, in his cabinet, with war crimes. And this was the talk for quite a few weeks. The United States, with the senators, the president, they were all like up in arms. They were just threatening in every sense of the way that they're going to have sanctions on the ICC and all of that stuff. They were just really mad at the idea that the criminal court will dare to charge Benjamin Netanyahu with war crimes. And so much so that 12 senators, the audacity of these 12 senators, decided to write a letter and sent it to Karim Khan, the chief prosecutor from the International Criminal Court, basically threatening him, threatening his family, threatening his associates, and like, oh, we're going to ban you from the United States. You're not going to be able to travel to the United States. We're going to sanction you. And they literally ended the letter with, you have been warned. We did a whole episode on this thing. And then the 12 senators, including the Senate Minority Leader, Mitch McConnell, signed this letter on United States Senate letterhead, as you can see right there in the top left, and sent it to him. We had no idea that others, they did this same thing to others as well. Because here is, in an interview she was doing and talking about the situation, here is South African Foreign Minister Maladi Pandor speaking about this same situation. And this is what she had to say.
The International Criminal Court has jurisdiction over the situation in Palestine. And we have previously called on the Office of the Prosecutor to urgently lead a thorough and impartial investigation into this matter, one that complies with international legal standards, to establish the facts and bring those responsible to justice. If all of this were happening in Africa, they would have already issued warrants. It took 3 weeks to issue warrants on Putin, 7 months, nothing on Prime Minister Netanyahu and his ministers. Of course, you'd have seen in reports today that the prosecutor of the ICC has received, like me, a letter from congressmen who have indicated that if you dare to issue a warrant, we will deal with you. Same letter I have received.
That's right. These senators, she called them Congress people, but they're actually senators. These senators sent her the same letter that they sent to the lead prosecutor for the ICC, threatening her because, again, she was one of the people instrumental in getting the case, the South Africa, to bring the case of genocide against Israel. She received the same letter. We didn't know it at the time, but here she is talking about the same letter. Unbelievable. And it's very interesting that they are black and brown people. I always thought about this. I'm like, if Karim Khan, if prosecutor Karim Khan was a white man, white British man, would these senators have sent that letter? Would they dare and have the audacity to send that letter to him? But notice the people that they send it to, black and brown people. And again, it's the same thing as in the US. I mean, the reason why the case against Donald Trump has gotten as far as it has, because it's black and brown people, really black people, black women especially, have been the one holding him account and getting this forward, or else it will still be nowhere. And it's the same thing here. He's a brown man, she's a black woman. Unbelievable. And moving forward after that episode of Karim Khan did, and I posted it on community page, had made this unprecedented announcement in a press conference, basically called a press conference to denounce these people for trying to obstruct the International Criminal Court and also for trying to intimidate him and others. And so it was unprecedented what they did. And then we found out that they had also sent that letter from the United States Senate. Well, moving forward, this happened a few days ago. It says the ICC prosecutor Karim Khan announces application for arrest warrants in relation to Benjamin Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant in context of the situation in the state of Palestine. So the ICC did not allow the senators from the U.S. senators to intimidate them into backing away from, filing charges against Netanyahu and his crew. And also, they didn't just file it against Netanyahu and his crew, but it also filed it against Hamas. And this is from their statement, what the charges are against Benjamin Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant. And honestly, Itamar Ben-Gvir should have been on this list. This man is psycho, and he's also literally a criminal. And so, yes, he should be on this list, but I digress. It says, on the basis of evidence collected and examined by my office, I have reasonable grounds to believe that Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, and Yoav Gallant, the Minister of Defense of Israel, bear criminal responsibility for the following war crimes and crimes against humanity committed in the territory of the state of Palestine in Gaza Strip from at least 8th October 2023. And these are the charges. It's like the starvation of civilians as a method of warfare, as a war crime contrary to Article 8. I'm not going to read the rest of the statute. Willfully causing great suffering or serious injury to body or health contrary to Article 8, or cruel treatment or as a war crime contrary to Article 8. Willful killing contrary to Article 8. And again, I'm not going to read the others things there. You can just see it. Murder as a war crime contrary to Article 8. Intentionally directing attacks against civilian as a war crime contrary to the Article 8. Extermination, and or murder contrary to Article 7 and 7.1, including the context of death caused by starvation as a crime against humanity. Persecution as a crime against humanity contrary to Article 7. Other inhumane acts as crime against humanity contrary to Article 7. So those are the charges against Benjamin Netanyahu and his defense Minister of Defense, Yoav Gallant. And again, Ben-Gvir should have been on this list because that man, again, is a criminal. He has been instigating a lot of this stuff. So, and also putting out genocidal, statements in interviews, etc. He should have been on this list. But I digress. The charges were also filed against Hamas. 3 members of Hamas were also charged in this, and also a warrant for their arrest. So should they go into any country that ICC has jurisdiction, those countries are required by law to arrest any of these people. And so some countries have already said, for example, I think Belgium, I think Norway, Germany, which is amazing, which is very interesting because Germany has been participating in this criminal behavior of Israel. They have been one of their top supporters with the U.S. and also providing arms to Israel. They've also come out and say that they are going to arrest either the Israeli president and his defense minister or any of these people who enter their country. They will be arresting them. France has also agreed with the ICC in its charges against Benjamin Netanyahu and also these Hamas leaders. So these are the charges filed against Hamas leaders. It says, on the basis of evidence collected and examined by my office, I have reasonable grounds to believe that Yahya Sinwar, head of the Islamic resistance movement Hamas in the Gaza Strip, Mohammed Diab Ibrahim al-Masri, more commonly known as DEIF, commander-in-chief of the military wing of Hamas known as Al-Qassam Brigades, and Ismail Haniyeh, head of Hamas Political Bureau, bear criminal responsibility for the following war crimes and crimes against humanity committed on the territory of Israel and the state of Palestine in the Gaza Strip from at least October 7, 2023. And these are the charges: extermination as a crime against humanity contrary to Article 7. And again, you can look at the rest of the articles, see what sections they are of the Rome Statute. Murder as a crime against humanity contrary to Article 7 and as a war crime contrary to Article 8. Taking hostage as a war crime contrary to Article 8, rape and other acts of sexual violence as a crime against humanity contrary to Article 7, and also as a war crime pursuant to Article 8 in the context of captivity. Torture as a crime against humanity contrary to Article 7, and also as a war crime contrary to Article 8 in the context of captivity. Other inhumane acts as a crime against humanity contrary to Article 7 in the context of captivity. Cruel treatment as a war crime contrary to Article 8 in the context of captivity, and outrages upon personal dignity as a war crime contrary to Article 8 in the context of captivity. So these are the crimes against these members of Hamas. And again, whatever country that the ICC has jurisdiction, these people can be arrested. They are required by international law to be arrested. So again, some countries have already come out and said, yes, we will be arresting. I'm assuming the others haven't, but if they step foot in those countries, they are required by law to arrest these people. So that clearly restricts Netanyahu and these guys from certain countries that they can't, if they go, they are free to go, but they can be arrested. So what has been the response? What has been the response in the United States? Well, this is a response from the President of the United States. Statement from President Biden on the warrant application by the International Criminal Court. The ICC, and this is from President Biden, the ICC prosecutor's application for arrest warrants against Israeli leaders is outrageous. I kid you not. And let me be clear, according to Joe Biden, whatever this prosecutor might imply, there is no equivalence, none, between Israel and Hamas. We will always stand with Israel against threats to its security. Well, in a way, he's right. In a way, Joe Biden is right. There is no equivalent. At this point, Israel needs to improve to get to Hamas stage. They literally need to improve. There is no equivalent because Hamas did what they did on October 7th in response to all these years of what Israel has been doing to their country. They've had them, in an apartheid situation. They're living in an open-air prison. This is what they've been doing. Israel, on the other hand, what have they done? They've literally bombed just about all of Gaza. They've bombed all their university. They have no university. They have bombed all of their schools for kids. They have bombed UN shelters. They have killed over 126 journalists. They have cut off water. They have cut off food aid. They are blocking aid from getting into Gaza. None of these things Hamas has done. Hamas has never done that to any of these people. They've not done that in Israel. On top of that, Israel has killed over 16,000 children in Gaza. Hamas hasn't done any of those things. So yes, in a way, Joe Biden, even though he was looking at it in the reverse, that Hamas is so terrible that they can never compare to Israel. Oh, no, President Biden. You got that wrong. Israel will need to improve to get to Hamas. Israel is doing all of the things, one, that they've claimed Hamas was doing, and worse. Hamas hasn't done any of the things that I've just listed off to Israel. So this, don't you dare. So it's kind of like, well, Israel could commit genocide, but they're the better guys than Hamas. No, what Hamas did on October 7th was not right in any sense of the word. It is a crime. It is a crime. One person, killing one person is horrendous enough. The 600 people that they killed, no, that is no crime. But we are coming up on 30,000 Palestinians, or actually 40,000, Palestinians that Israel has massacred in the last 7 months, including 16,000 children. So yeah, Israel would need to improve to get to Hamas, Mr. President. And on top of that, the president insists, as you can see on the right, president insists Israel is not committing genocide. Never mind, just about every single organization, human rights organization, have said, yes, what Israel is doing is genocide. Many of the protests around the world have been Jewish people saying, no, you cannot do this. What you're doing is genocide. Holocaust survivors are out there protesting, saying, no, Israel, what you're doing is genocide. What you're doing is not Jewish. What you're doing is massacring people. Many people in the college campuses, in the schools, in the encampments, many of them, probably in some cases, the majority are Jewish people calling out Israel's genocide. But yet the president of the United States are like, no, Israel is not committing genocide. They're the good guys. They're the okay ones. They're not committing genocide. They're just massacring 40,000 people and killing 16,000 children. They're just bombing every hospital in Gaza. They're just bombing every university in Gaza. But it's not genocide. It's not what your eyes says at all. It's not genocide. Explain that. This is the president of the United States that we're supposed to believe. He's also the president who is bought and paid for by AIPAC, which is, again, this is the Israeli lobby that has bought just about every member of the United States Senate and Congress, bar a few of them that have said no to AIPAC. The president has taken over $5 million from AIPAC. And this is what being bought and paid for by AIPAC look like. You're the president of the country, yet you are bought and paid for by a foreign government. So you could stand there in front of the American people and say this nonsense. Unbelievable. Moving on. What else? I love this Ashiro post. Alexa, show me an example of hypocrisy. That's all you need to know. The same ICC that President Biden is claiming that it's outrageous that they should charge Netanyahu with war crimes. Oh, the same ICC, when they charged Vladimir Putin, it says the U.S. President Joe Biden welcomes the ICC war crimes charges against Russian leader Vladimir Putin. But when, on the right, Netanyahu arrest warrant request, outrageous. Biden, the same thing. They're doing the same thing. But Netanyahu is doing worse than Putin and committing more atrocities than Putin in a shorter space of time. Yeah, it was okay and it was wonderful when Vladimir Putin was brought up on charges. But it's outrageous when it's Netanyahu. The hypocrisy is unbelievable. And yet we're supposed to believe this man. Unbelievable. And not only that, I mean, Kareem Khan, prosecutor Kareem Khan, did an interview recently in which he talked about this. And thank you, Africa Report, for writing about it. It says, a senior leader told me this court is built for Africa and thugs like Putin. That's right. A senior leader told me, this is what Kareem Khan is saying, and he said in the interview, a senior leader told me this court, the ICC, is built for Africa and thugs like Putin. ICC Chief Prosecutor Khan. That's right. The International Court is built and is there to prosecute Black people and thugs like Putin. So if you're white and you're a thug, quote unquote, thug like Putin, then yes, the ICC can bring you up on charges and charge you with genocide. That's fine. They're fine with that. So as long as you're Black and, as long as you're African, yes, that's what the court is for. But don't you dare, as a Black or brown man, be bringing charges against us white Christians or us white Jews, European Jews, who are claiming that we are indigenous to the land of Palestine, which we now want to make it all, land of Israel. Don't you dare. That court wasn't built for white folks. It's just there for Black folks and the ones who are thugs, like, that we don't approve of, like, say, Putin. Again, I say, if Kareem Khan was a white man, he would have never gotten those letters. He would have never been told about the court being for Africans because, African crime is worse than white people crime. And I always say this whole thing is about white supremacy. It's about white supremacy. But don't you dare hold white people to account. Don't you dare call them to account for their crimes, because somehow their crimes is better than the Black people's crimes. Their crimes are the worst crimes. They are the worst of crimes. Our crimes are okay. And you cannot call us to account. Jerusalem Post. This is Mike Johnson, who is the Speaker of the House, the House of Congress in the United States. And so the party that has control of the House, their leader is the Speaker of the House. That's what they call it, just in case you're not familiar with the U.S. government, how the situation here. This is Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, saying yesterday, he says Johnson will sanction the ICC for arrest warrants. We don't put any international body above American sovereignty. So American sovereignty includes Benjamin Netanyahu, this foreign leader of a foreign country. He goes on to say America should punish the ICC and put Kareem Khan back in his place. Yes, let's read that again. America should punish the ICC and put Kareem Khan back in his place. What place exactly is that, Mike Johnson? What exact place do you want to put this brown man back into? Exactly. Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson said on Wednesday morning news conference, Congress is reviewing all of his options, including aggressive legislation to impose sanctions as quickly as possible, Johnson said. If the ICC move forward with this absurd warrant request, this is going to be an even bigger international problem. Part of what he also said that if they go after Israel like this, then they would try to come after them in the United States. Why would you think that, Mike? Could it be that you've been participating in a genocide, maybe? Why would you think that the ICC would come after you? If you were innocent and weren't participating and actively aiding and abetting this genocide, why would you think the ICC would come after you? Exactly. And it's funny, Lindsey Graham, who we just looked at earlier, who was telling Israel to ignore the ICJ demand for them to stop bombing Rafah, he said exactly the same thing. If they go after Israel like this, they will come after us. Yeah, well, that's kind of how it works. When you are aiding and abetting a genocide, that's kind of how that works, how the law works. You're committing crimes, the law tends to come after you. But it's this going back to this, America should punish the ICC and put Kareem back in his brown place. Exactly. How dare this brown person issue arrest warrants for this white European who is the president of I was like always going back to like these white Europeans who's trying to colonize Gaza, colonize the land of Palestine, claiming to be indigenous to the land. How dare this brown person do this? How dare this brown person bring criminal charges and how dare he try to arrest this good white Jewish man who leads Israel? How dare he? And part of that too is Secretary Blinken, who pretty much is right there lockstep with them to sanction the ICC. Remember the same ICC when they issued the arrest warrant for Putin that the president was like, yes, they welcome it. They welcome it because, again, the court was there for thugs like Putin. Never mind that Netanyahu is doing worse and committing worse atrocities than Putin, and that Israel has been doing this for over 75 years to Palestine. Never mind all of those. The ICC was not created for our ally, European white man, the president of Israel. Unbelievable. I mean, the utter arrogance, the racism, it is just, it just bubbles out of them, doesn't it? Unbelievable. And talking about Ben Gvir, who should be on that list of people that the ICC issued the arrest warrant for, Ben Gvir, I would very much like to live in Gaza. Voluntary migration should be encouraged there. National Security Minister Itamar Ben Gvir and real criminal said that Israel should control Gaza Strip after the war, and that voluntary immigration of its residents should be encouraged, and Jewish settlements should be established in its territory, complete occupation of Gaza with full Israeli control. Jewish settlements, but the most important step, encouraging voluntary migration. Just throw a few bombs their way and they will voluntarily migrate. By the way, I'm not saying everyone, the minister said in an interview with Kikar Hashabat. Ben Gvir said he would be happy to live in Gaza Strip if it were possible. Goes on to say, when asked if he intends to return to the settlement that were evacuated in 2005, Ben Gvir said not only that, how much more to bring in. If there is a migration of hundreds of thousands who leave, you can bring more and more people in. This is what it's always been about. It has always been about kicking or ethnically cleansing Palestine so that they can move in. I don't care. I've been saying it since October 7th when all this stuff, escalated, that this was not about Hamas. It was not about getting hostages back. It's never been that. I mean, Israel has been killing its own hostages. Even when they're walking there waving white flag at them with an Israeli accent, and they killed them. And so this has never been about that. And so Ben Gvir has this vision of they are raising Gaza. They have ripped up the roads, destroyed every bit of everything that people can live in Gaza. They have destroyed every single thing. And this has been the goal all along. And the United States and other Western governments have been lockstep with them, because I'm sure a lot of them are looking forward to Israel taking over the entire Gaza Strip and other parts like the West Bank and Jenin and all of those places, the entire land belonging to Israel, so that the United States and other countries can profit from the resources that are offshore of Gaza, the billions of dollars that they could make in Gaza. This is what it's all about. It's been all about this. But again, going back to the ICC rulings and the ICJ rulings, it'll be interesting again, since the United States completely disregarding and looking to sanction the ICC. What will the president say now that the highest legal entity in international law has spoken that Israel needs to stop? What will the United States say? Will they also disregard what the ICJ have said to Israel? Will the international community stand up for human rights? Will they stand up and finally say no to Israel? Will the American president finally have the guts to stand up for a change? We will see. I don't know. I haven't heard what he said yet. I haven't heard him say anything yet. Will they stop? So anyways, it will be interesting to see in the next couple of days. We know Israel still continues bombing. They're doing what they always have done. We will see what the rest of the international community says. Anyway, finally, I always want to end this with just the people in Palestine, who are just amazing. And some of the kids, I've featured kids on here before and talking about just how amazing these children are, their resilience, in spite of all that has happened to them, in spite of all that Israel has done to literally eliminate every single one of them. Because again, these kids are going to grow up and they're going to remember. They're going to remember what Israel has done to them, their families, their friends, their communities, their schools, everything. They're going to remember. And Israel is trying to make sure that none of them is alive to remember and to maybe take action against them. This is what this is. They're trying to exterminate them so that no one is around that has evidence against them. And in spite of all that these kids have seen and experienced, it's amazing to watch. I mean, we've seen them use broken down buildings, the side of concrete slabs as a place to go sliding down. They've used broken buildings to tie up rope to make a swing. Now here are these children using a bombed out car and using their imagination, as you can see in the right picture, the picture on the right. They're driving their friends around. And it's look at the wonder in their eyes. Look at the wonder, the joy, the imagination going of these children. In spite of the horror that's around them, these kids fight. They fight to maintain their childhood. And kudos to the parents, to allow them the imagination to still be there and to still be, they're just imagining driving their car. They have their own car in spite of all that is around that car. Look around that car. It's bombed out and all the stuff around it. Kids find a way to be kids. And it's been one of the most incredible things I have seen in this entire genocide. And the Savior, an account on X posted, says, "You will never defeat the children of Gaza." How true that is. You can't. How do you fight this? You can't fight this. And I'm telling you, children are amazing. They are absolutely, absolutely amazing. God, it just, look at those faces. Anyway, I just wanted to end with that. And thank you so much, guys, for watching. Thank you so much to Lydia Church, Nelly, Karen M, Cookies and Cream, and Black Queen. Thank you so much for moderating and taking care of our channel and making sure it's nice and safe. Thank you to our awesome 2 Cents crew who support the channel, and those of you who support in the chat, whether it's super thanks, super stickers, just donation, whether it's there or PayPal or Cash App. Thank you all so much for your support. That's it. I appreciate all of your support. I appreciate everything you've done for the channel. And I just thank you. And I will chat with you next time. Bye.